So Robert Mueller called a press conference because he's now officially done with his job, and his comments were interesting and newsworthy, to say the least.
We investigated efforts to obstruct the investigation. The matters we investigated were of paramount importance. It was critical for us to obtain full and accurate information from every person we questioned. When a subject of an investigation obstructs that investigation or lies to investigators, it strikes at the core of the government's effort to find the truth and hold wrongdoers accountable. The report describes the results and analysis of our obstruction of justice investigation involving the president. The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime. The introduction to the Volume 2 of our report explains that decision. It explains that under long-standing department policy, a president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Charging the president with a crime was therefore not an option we could consider. The department's written opinion explaining the policy makes several important points that further informed our handling of the obstruction investigation. Those points are summarized in our report, and I will describe two of them for you. First, the opinion explicitly permits the investigation of a sitting president because it is important to preserve evidence while memories are fresh and documents available. Among other things, that evidence could be used if there were co-conspirators who could be charged now. And second, the opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing. And beyond department policy, we were guided by principles of fairness. It would be unfair to potentially accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge.
So Twitter lit up after he gave his little, it was only like a 10-minute speech here. I would call it a press conference, but he didn't really take any questions, so you can't really call it a press conference. But he spoke for like 10 minutes. I clipped out like the really important parts here. You can watch the whole thing and get the full gist of what he's saying. But the reason why Twitter lit up about this after the fact is if you watch the portion I just showed you a few times over, you'll understand what he's saying. Now, admittedly, I didn't even hear it the first time because Robert Mueller has a way of drenching everything he says in legalese and walking on eggshells almost to the point where it's infuriating. But kind of what he's saying there is, hey, dipshits, I couldn't indict a sitting president even if, we wanted to. There are other methods to go after a sitting president. The other methods are impeachment. So he's basically saying, like, in so many words, this should have been a spark to start impeachment proceedings over the issue of obstruction of justice in the House. That's more or less what he's saying. Now, if you didn't take that away from those comments, I'd implore you to just listen to it a few times and really try to digest what he's saying. Because again, admittedly, it took me a few times because he's like, everything he says is like super convoluted. But that does seem to me to be what he's saying. Now, having said that, I will now say for what, the fourth time, the fifth time? Dude, just say it. Now, I've seen people argue like, well, he's going as far as he can go given the confines of what his job allows. Fuck are you talking about? You just made that up. He can, if he wants to, say, because of my findings on the issue of obstruction of justice, I'm hereby recommending that Congress impeach the president. Like, that, you can say that. There's nothing stopping you from saying that. Nothing at all. He has the ability to say that. He can say that. Ken Starr apparently said back when he was doing his investigation of Bill Clinton, he used the word guilty like 11 times. So, Robert Mueller never used those words, but he's trying to like hint and wink and nod and leave a trail of breadcrumbs and say like, okay, Congress, like, go right ahead. There are other ways to go after a sitting president for wrongdoing, and I lay out many of the issues on obstruction, in the report. Now, he says he will not testify in front of Congress, and he says, basically the reason why is the report is his testimony, and you should, digest the full report and react accordingly. And he said he's not going to take any comments or any questions from the press, and he's just going to do these brief, say these brief words and then move on from here. So here's the thing. As a result of what he said here, now all of a sudden, the conversation is back and it's stronger than ever on the issue of impeachment. It was always kind of lingering, but in my estimation, I feel like it was kind of dwindling and going away, if anything, because it appeared relatively clear that Nancy Pelosi was like, no, we think it would largely be a waste of time, so we're not going to do it. But now with Robert Mueller giving this like wink and a nod and a nudge, all of a sudden, now there's more pressure than ever on the Democrats who were holding out and saying, I'm not so sure this is the right move. So now it's become, a massive issue online, a massive issue in left circles. And again, in my mind, I just wish Mueller would just say what he believes. I'm so tired of reading between the lines and dissecting his comments. And some people say, hey, it's really clear what he said there. Again, I had to watch it a few times before I really got what he was hinting at. And that's the point, is that he's hinting at it, and if he really believed it, he should have just said it. Now, another thing I think is he made crystal clear there that, hey, I don't think you are allowed to indict a sitting president. It is unconstitutional to indict a sitting president. If Robert Mueller had said this at the beginning of the investigation, if he came out and said this publicly, he would have prevented about 10,000 hours of rampant media speculation where everybody, including myself, got swept into it, where I'm thinking, I don't know, is he going to maybe indict the president? And that became the giant conversation happening every day in media circles. And he could have prevented all of that speculation if he simply came out and said from the beginning, I am abiding by the longstanding policy of not indicting sitting presidents because, according to our Constitution, the only recourse against a current sitting president is impeachment, the political process of impeachment. He could have just, if he just said it, because there were a lot of debates going on where some legal experts were saying, well, no, it's actually up in the air and it's an open question as to whether or not you can indict a sitting president. And then other legal experts were saying, no, it's current policy, and it's current policy based off of a plain-faced reading of the Constitution that you cannot indict a sitting president. So that's the default. And they were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and like so much of the speculation was on that. Oh my God, is he going to indict him? So if Robert Mueller made clear from the beginning, no matter what I find, I cannot indict the president, then I think the reaction to the report would have been much different, and people would have been much more willing to think, oh, impeachment is the only next logical step if we're going to do anything. Because if you think there's zero chance of him indicting because he says I simply can't indict, well, then they're going to read it with more scrutiny and go, no matter what, he wasn't going to indict, so whatever he lays out here, that's for then Congress to take action. So again, I feel like he should have just came out and said it. Here's, I tweeted this a month ago, and I think I was 100% spot on when I said, it looks like Robert Mueller wanted Congress to impeach on the issue of obstruction. But when William Barr released his bottom line summary of the findings, and the bottom line summary of the findings included no evidence of collusion, and we are not going to go after the president for obstruction. He's neither guilty nor innocent. There's no determination made. But I, William Barr, am saying we're not going to go after the president on this issue. Mueller then got mad at Barr because Mueller was saying, hey, man, that second part is like you interjecting your own thoughts here on obstruction. That's not really what I say in the report. What I say in the report is, here's a bunch of instances where I think he actually obstructed, but I'm not going to make any determination because I can't make any determination because I can't indict a sitting president. So those examples of obstruction, it was Mueller laying out what he thought his roadmap was for Congress to then take the step of impeaching over obstruction. So my guess was back then, after hearing the reaction from Mueller and Barr and how they kind of went back and forth, I thought Mueller wanted Congress to impeach, but he didn't just flat out say it. And the ambiguity was used by Barr to say, don't do anything at all. And then Mueller got upset at Barr over that. And then now Mueller's coming out and he's leaving another trail of breadcrumbs where he refuses to just say it because he thinks, because of my position, I can't just say it, which I think is utter nonsense. You could say it if you want to say it. You can say it if you believe it. In my estimation, based on the evidence, I think Congress can move forward with impeachment on the issue of obstruction. But he didn't just say it, but he did massively hint at it. And now there's a lot of political pressure on basically every elected Democrat to, okay, now you have to take action and you have to do this. Now, I'm going to hold off just a little bit here. The very next segment that we're doing, I'm going to give you like a substantive breakdown of exactly what goes into impeachment, and you'll get the nooks and the crannies of it, and you'll understand it in detail. And then I'll give my own personal take on it. But the importance of this news is, yes, it appears like that Robert Mueller is yet again hinting at, hey, dipshits, you can start impeachment proceedings over the issue of obstruction. And if that wasn't clear enough before, I'm going to try to hint at it yet again here within the confines of what I think I can say and do. And then now this is going to be a bigger issue than ever because basically he pumps some adrenaline into, or pumps some steroids into an issue that was kind of slipping away and becoming more of a non-issue. This is Mueller coming out and saying, there's one way to go after sitting presidents. I couldn't do anything because I can't indict him, but hey, there is another way to go down this road, so it's up to you. So now this is, the issue is more front and center than ever before. And in my mind, it feels like we're right back to square one on the issue of Russiagate, and we will forever have dueling factions claiming victory. And it's like the song that never ends. It's the issue that never goes away. But now it's beyond the collusion argument, and it's more about the obstruction argument. And final point is, Representative Nadler actually came out and said that, they should move forward on impeachment now. But it's weird because there's a lot of Democrats who are also kind of hinting at, including Nadler, like, oh, if we go for impeachment over obstruction, things will be included about collusion as well. And again, I think it goes back to a really sketchy place, because then you open the door for the Republicans to step in and say, the report says no evidence of collusion, or certainly not enough evidence to take action on collusion. Therefore, you're gonna impeach over obstruction when he obstructed what? A crime that didn't occur? And I think that argument resonates a hell of a lot more with most Americans than what the Democrats would come up with on that front. But again, I just want to hold off a little bit on my own take on impeachment and let this news stand on its own, that Robert Mueller has now come out and spoken for the first time, and his words are basically, yet again, hinting at, by all means, if you wanted to impeach over obstruction, go right ahead.